Well, good afternoon, everybody. It is Wednesday, March 19, 2025, and today we have a special guest on our LinkedIn Live. But this one's a little more special because this person is not from the construction or staffing side, they are from the hospitality. However, they still manage with people and even worse, the public. If you guys have ever had any customer service jobs, you know how hectic that can be. But I'm very excited to have my good friend Helio here on live, and he has been in the industry for over 20 plus years, and this guy has seen it all. So I'll let Mr. Helio introduce himself to the viewers, and let's hear what you got.
First and foremost, it's pronounced Helio
Helios, my bad.
because Helio, it's okay because I am from Guatemala and that's how we pronounce it. All right, we're just gonna set the record straight. Um, Rocio, thanks for having me today. It's a great pleasure to be here. I've seen your growth and what you've done over the years, and it is impressive. So a lot of us will agree with me that we congratulate on all you've done and become. Um, I think I've started following you about maybe I think it's 4 years ago, 5 years ago on LinkedIn, and your growth has been great. So continue doing what you've done.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
hmm Yeah. So yeah, I've been in the industry for 20 plus years. Started when I was 18. I'll be 40 in a couple months. And yeah,
It's awesome. You don't even look like you look so young. You definitely have the Hispanic genes working for you on your side. But I really want to dive into team management because I feel like nobody else but you knows how to work with a large group of people, and especially in your industry where there's a lot of turnaround. You guys have a lot of high turnaround, a lot of part timers, a lot of in and outs. And just to make sure that I'm correct, you started in the industry in California a couple of years ago, right?
yeah. In 2003 to be exact, I started right out of high school. So the turnover has been impacted. We called it right around the time of COVID. We called it the second pandemic um, because we couldn't keep anybody on board. And as a GM, you have to do what you have to do to get the property going because guests are still going to arrive at your hotel. The hotel still needs to make money, so you got to take care of the owner and the brand and the guests. So that was challenging, and especially in California where we had a lot of free money that was given from the state to, basically stay home. So a lot of people were like, why do I want to go to work when I can get paid to stay at home? And so
Hmm.
I mean, that was challenging. That was
So, how
brutal.
did you guys get people to come to work during those times? I mean, COVID was a crazy time, and I remember, hospitality was the one that you guys got crushed.
Yeah, I mean the hotel I was managing at the time, it was in Colton, right off the 10, and we never shut down. We actually COVID helped us out ramp up because it was a brand new hotel. We opened that on March 5th, and the country shut down on March 9th. And
Oh,
we're like, what do we do? We all looked at each other like, what do we do? It's a brand new 122 room hotel in right off the freeway, prime location, and we're like, let's just keep going. And I mean, typical hotel ramp up like in the first couple months is between 30 to 50%. We sold out within the first couple weeks, and we're like, let's just keep going. So the people that came to work were the ones that had the need. For whatever reason, they couldn't qualify for government assistance, and they needed to work. And um, I had a newborn at the time, so I couldn't take time off, and I just, like I said, we just had to keep going. It was challenging because maybe about 50 applicants. Um, you would call all 50 for an interview, half of them would show up, and then the other half from that first half were the ones that made the cut, and then only maybe one or two of those would actually show up for the first day of work. So it was very frustrating.
man. How did you guys deal with? people and asking for more money? Because I know that was definitely a challenge anywhere, right?
Yeah.
You guys faced it a lot where someone would come in and say, "Well, I have this offer." That happened, across the nation that people would come in like, "I have this offer from XYZ for for $2 more. Can you guys match it?" Or if you don't match it, then I'm leaving.
Well, it's all about it's the art of negotiation at that point, right? I mean, you set the budget for certain roles. So like front desk, I mean, you have your money. Anybody working overnight typically makes like, 25 cents more than the average front desk because they are working overnight. And then the housekeepers. And then it's like, well, what does your resume say versus what, you know, you can do? Um, Other things that we can do would be like, okay, here's where we're going to start you. Let's hypothetically just say $16 for argument's sake. And then after your first, 6 months, if you don't have any write-ups or anything like that, then we'll talk about renegotiation. I mean, but one of my things right up front is I'm, an honest person, and I'll tell them, yes, we can do it, or no, we can't do it. I'm not gonna, you know, just lie to get you in through the door because then I look bad. If the budget calls for it, then we will. Then if not, then I'll tell them flat out, sorry.
Yeah. And then since you brought up write-ups, I mean, you've been in this industry and you've been managing people for, 20 plus years now. How do you deal with confrontation and letting an employee know of other, you know, error, mistakes, maybe complaints? 'Cause I'm sure you get a lot of complaints maybe from the public saying, "Hey, I didn't get my towels on time. They didn't clean my room. I've been waiting for, this for my
Yeah,
water for like over 30
yeah,
minutes."
yeah. That happens daily. It happens, and of course, I've learned in my years to not jump to conclusions right away. So I always investigate. Like if they're like, "Why didn't you get my towel?" Okay, well, let's find out. I'll go to my housekeeper. Hey, did you? Oh yeah, this room said to not come. Like, don't bother us until a certain time. So um, we'll have a set of towels down here ready for that guest when they're ready. Certain things like that. So in terms of write-ups, again, it's all investigation. Find out what really happened. But the key to confronting a get or an employee is and I'm going to say an unpopular rule because a lot of people will disagree with me, but you cannot become too close to your employees. I feel like when you do and you have to put the foot down, they'll get offended. I'm like, I thought we were friends. No, we're cool, but we still have a job to do because at the end of the day, the owners look at me going, Elio, how come you haven't disciplined this person? Why is that person still here, still making the same mistakes? Did you talk to them? Did you coach them? Did you counsel them? Was there, written documentation? And that's what it comes down to. It's just, doing the line between uh, 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 not even a friendship, but an acquaintance and an employee, because you do have to see them, and you will build a relationship because you see them 8 hours a day. But again, it just comes down to like, don't be close to them and put the foot down.
Yeah. And going on that part, I feel like you have the most hardest job because you're the middleman between the owner and the employees.
Right,
You
right.
are the one who gets pretty much the backlash on both sides, right? You
Oh,
get
absolutely. Yeah,
the pull and a tug.
yeah.
That's
Yeah, it's part of the job. You represent your liaison between, and then that three people. So you have the brand. So I work for Hilton. So I have
Mhm.
Hilton standards that I have to keep. And then I have, of course, the owner standards I have to keep. And the guest standards that I have to keep, which
Yeah.
are the most important because without them, I'm not going to have a full hotel. So, and then of course, yeah, taking care of my employees as well. So I'm the one man, listening to everybody, and I just have to make that decision at that time.
And then what at one point did you feel that you were like you got a hold of these skills? Because it's skills. Um, on the insurance side and my side, I always focus and say your manager, like training your managers on what to do, making sure your managers have the resources, have the equipment, and also, looking after your manager's mental health too, because
Hmm.
you already know what it is to deal with pressure. So like you guys are a huge component of the company, because if the manager's out, it's kind of like, okay, what do we do? Where do we go?
Right.
So at what point did you feel like you had, like, your skill sets were like, okay, I feel like I have my hands around this? Because
Oh,
you started really early. I mean, you started, just like me. I started off really young, worked my way up, and just like yourself, you started at 18, worked your way up.
yeah. So it's all baby steps. I when I was really, really young, I was probably one of the most arrogant people you've ever met. And to the point where I thought like I knew everything by the age of 20. Because by the age of 21, I got transferred from California to Texas the first time,
Okay.
and to manage a hotel, a larger hotel, full service hotel, but as a front office manager. And I thought I was the bee's knees. I thought I was on top of the world. And um, that property just kind of dissolved. And I went to another hotel as a GM. And again, I'm 21, thinking I got this. I'm good. And I fell so hard on my face at that hotel,
What happened?
right away. Again, I was cocky. I thought I knew all the answers at 21, being a GM, and without the proper guidance or myself allowing myself to be guided, um, lost a 50 at the time it was $52,000 account. It was an annual account, and I lost it because I felt like I can get a better rate, and I wasn't budging on times. Like, if you want to check out's at 11, and these people are like, "Oh, my class ends at 11. Can I get 12 o'clock?" And I'm like, "Nope, 11 o'clock it is. We're gonna do it by the book." And they didn't like it, and so because I wasn't not lenient, but just coachable, uh, I fell flat on my face, and I got fired as I should have, and after that, I learned to take a step back because I'm always going to be in that student mentality, even right now. At with all the experience I have, I'm still learning. I'm still learning a lot. And so once I got that grasp, it was like, okay, now let's go back to the beginning. Let's learn how to properly check somebody in. The times, can we be a little bit more lenient? How much do we want this account? Do we really want to keep this account? Whatever, whatever. So once I learned that, then I was able to get a hold of things. And then I learned the art of delegation right after that. And because I'm like you said, we take so much as far as mental health goes that um, we can't do everything at once. So when you delegate, you can go home at a certain time. You can go home early or whenever you want to or not want to. But whenever your goal is to go home, um, but once we got that going, I was able to trust people and to learn to be trusted and to coach them properly, so that I can take some time off and take a break. So I know that was a long-winded answer, but um, like I said, I'm glad that I learned the way I did. I'm glad that I got fired. I'm glad that I learned the hard way because I think I still would have been a cocky, arrogant person had that not happened.
And then the coaching, when did that start? Because I'm sure you have done so much training to, develop people, make sure they move on from one department to another department. Like I said earlier, you pretty much know every aspect of your job.
Yeah, it happened right after that because I had to train front desk people, and uh, there's a friend of mine who's been in the industry for a long time. Her name's Nicole. She taught me this great lesson on coaching people, and I still use it till this day. So, Rocio, I'm going to ask you this question. How do you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Go ahead and tell me.
First, you make sure that you have all the ingredients out. So you want to make sure you have your bread, your peanut butter, your jelly, and then and then from there, I don't eat peanut butter and jelly. Just for FYI from the audience, I'm allergic.
Okay.
But so then you lay out the ingredients, and you start off with, oh man, we're gonna start judging my peanut butter jelly sandwiches. Okay, so lay out the ingredients, and you start off with opening up the bread, and then you decide whether you want to start off with peanut butter or jelly. You know, uh, so in this case, we'll start off with peanut butter. Put it, do one slice and do the same thing on the opposite slice, and then get the jelly. Do one slice, do the opposite slice, and you put it together.
Okay. Well, that was it. So then per your instructions, I'm going to do it exactly like that. I'm going to lay out, I don't know where I'm going to lay it out, but I'm going to lay out the ingredients wherever I'm going to lay, wherever I could be standing up with nothing to lay it on, but I'm going to lay it out. And I am going to, get the bread. And I don't know if I'm going to open the bread from the packet or not, but I'm going to open the bread like per you and then get the peanut butter and do it to the one slice and then do it to the other slice and then the jelly. So I don't even know if I'm spreading the whole bread or not. I'm just doing one slice to the. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's silly, and I've done this for many years, and whoever's watching, please use this because I learned it from somebody and I recycle it and I use it a lot. So thank you, Nicole Jacobs. Um, the purpose of this is again, as leaders, our people are going to do exactly what we tell them. And we can't always assume that somebody knows how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich because, excuse me, like you said, you're allergic to peanuts. You don't make it often.
Mm-hmm.
So, somebody said, get bread, peanut butter, and that's it. And I'm like, okay, so what do I do with the bread? Do I take it out of the packet? Like, how do I, and then I've had somebody say, open the bag, pull out two slices, spread the slices apart, get the peanut butter and unscrew the top of the peanut butter and make sure the peanut butter is, spreadable, like very detailed. That's how we are as far as coaching goes, is, we have to make sure that not assume that the employee doesn't know what we're talking about, but we want to make sure that they understand what we talk about. And so it's as simple as checking somebody in. Somebody walks in, ask for their ID, check their ID, make sure it matches the reservation, and so on, right? Because again, uh, they have to know what we know. And then once we understand, or once we think they know what we're talking about, then I'm going to have them train me. And then I'm going to pretend that I'm the student and they're the coach. And so they're going to train me because I want to know what they retain and what they didn't retain. And then we go from there.
That's awesome. Let me read this from Gustavo Rojas. Rojas. He says, I agree. We all need to learn the hard way sometimes to let us see the bigger picture.
That's right. I agree, Gustavo.
Yeah. The hard knocks of life.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
I've just like you and just like many of us, we have fallen on our face hard, and it's you have to decide from there. Okay, well, what can I do right now to recover? But first of all, you need to first pick yourself up
Hmm.
and just accept it, because if you keep going back and feeling guilty about it or just replaying that scene over and over in your head, you're just going to make it worse. You just got to
Yeah.
make peace with it, like, all right, I messed up, so let's move forward.
But it's okay. Like one of the things that we don't talk about a lot is we don't talk about losing. We talk about winning all the time.
Oh yeah.
Everyone wants to be a winner. Everyone wants to be a winner. Everyone wants to have like the best awards and this and that because everyone knows how to win. But do we know how to lose? And that's important because we're going to lose at one point. But do we stay as a loser or do we, move on and learn? Because a lot of people don't know how to lose. A lot of managers don't know how to lose. A lot of companies don't know how to lose. Um, and if you learn how to lose, then and it happens again, then you're okay. Then you get up, dust yourself off, and learn to not make that mistake again, and then win.
Yeah. And how do you keep yourself so level headed, because you're a manager and you're dealing with human resources and workers comp. You're dealing with both
Yeah.
departments, and maybe you're even the one doing both departments. So how do you deal with that for someone who might be in the same position as you, working at hospitality or restaurant, or maybe they're just starting off in the hospitality section? Like, what advice
Well,
do you give them?
well, first of all, don't work in this industry. All right, run away. That's the first thing I'll tell them. No, I'm kidding. It's an incredible, rewarding career, and again, like I told you before we started the show, I don't look back. even my mistakes, I don't go, oh, I wish I would. No, I don't look back at anything. I'm glad things happened the way they happened. And so um, a lot of now, as I get closer to 40, I will tell people take as many breaks as you can. That is what keeps you level-headed. Um, Here in Texas, everything is flat. There are no mountains. It's one thing I miss about California is all the mountains. So I have to create my own mountain, and the mountain is the rooftop of my hotel. I go up there and breathe. I go up there by myself and I just breathe. I just, 5 minutes, just take a little breath of fresh air, you know, uh, decompress and compartmentalize. Um, that word is for some people unknown because they want to tackle everything at the same time. But when you compartmentalize, you focus on what you have to focus at that very moment, the task at hand, right? Um, as far as like HR, a lot of hotels are not as lucky as some of us are that have management companies. So we have an HR department. Um, of course, myself as a GM, we have to know HR laws with
Mhm.
whatever state, county we're in, OSHA requirements and all that good stuff. But any of the heavier lifting things, then obviously we contact our HR department. Same thing with like workman's comp. We're lucky to not have to deal with that on the site level. But if anything does happen, then obviously we're trained to know what to do in case something happens, and again, just fill out the reports and look at the cameras and do the investigation, contact HR, and HR, like I said, HR will do the heavy lifting. Some hotels are not lucky to have an HR department. Some hotels are single owned franchise families, so they do it all, and sometimes that's where it gets tricky because they may not know what to do. But as GMs, we do have to have part of our training is learning how to deal with these issues so we don't get, lawsuits or whatever.
Yeah, because the reports come from you. You have to, send them off to human resources, and then the
Hmm.
workers comp, and then they reach out to you. They have to get your witness statement, um,
Yeah,
see what went on, and then also when you have people. You're lucky in Texas. You guys don't have to deal with um, of all the loss, like all the compliance
yeah,
issues. I mean,
yeah.
what's one big difference that I guess, that you see compared to California? Because California law and Texas law.
Right. We there's no meal break premiums here. Um, so that's a huge, like in California, you have to, if you don't take your lunch by a certain hour, you get the meal break premium, which is like $1 or an hour extra on your paycheck. Obviously, that's money for the bottom line.
Hmm.
And a lot of companies don't budget for that because they feel like, obviously the managers, whoever's in charge, whether if you're in a warehouse and you have your supervisors on the floor, they should all know when your people are taking their lunches if you're working more than 5, 6 hours. Here in Texas, they don't have that. We still have, break laws that we have to um, abide by, but they're not as crazy as the California laws are as well. So that's one. It's a big one. That's a huge one because
Yeah.
it's like, well, when I was in California, a lot of my time was spent on making sure people didn't go past their fifth hour to take a lunch, And here I'm like, just take a lunch. Just, as long as you take a lunch, like we're
And
good.
then also, like, here in California, I know this could have, clients who are restaurant owners. When someone calls out like the last hour, and now you're looking at the employees that have worked, 5 hours, and you're like, oh my God, I can't even keep this person because now they're over. And there's so much time management when it comes to hospitality. Um,
Yeah, and even a property like this size, it's a little smaller, so it's if somebody were to call in, I would be the one stepping up and working the desk because I am salaried, so I can obviously my owners don't take advantage of that, which is incredible. Um, but the other thing to that is the owners save money on payroll as well. So if we have like a 20% um, payroll uh, for the revenue for the period, then obviously I'd step in and work and they'd save some money and that way there's that flexibility. Doesn't happen often, but when it does, it comes in handy.
That's awesome. And so let's get into how do you deal with public complaints and the customers?
I, first, don't take it seriously, right? They're not attacking you, they're talking about what happened. So, I shouldn't say seriously, personally is what I meant. Um, Take it seriously because it's somebody's time and money, but they're not attacking you. And sometimes a lot of people get offended right away. They're, oh, well, he's mad because whatever. No, it's just they're upset for a reason. Let's find out what happened. Um, uh, Obviously, a lot of empathy goes a long way. So if they come to you with an issue, just be empathetic. Don't be passive. Be like, well, it's your problem. It's more like, I'm so sorry. Let me find out what happened. Um, you know, we do this thing. I call it an ARC, right? ARC, which is answer. A stands for answer. R is relate or respond, and then C is close them. Kind of like a sales. It's more of a sales training or a term, but I use it, when I'm talking to my guests as well. You answer and like, yeah, absolutely, and then you relate to them or respond to them, and then you close them. You close them by saying, hey, what can I do to make you feel better? A lot of the times they're not looking for anything for free. They just want their problem resolved or heard. Sometimes two people want, some points or a little bit of a refund. But if I give them, like if I say, hey, I'm going to give you a refund for like, half off, the first thing, because it's human nature, they're going to be like, nope, I want the whole thing off. Or, hey, I'm going to do 1,000 points in your account. Well, why can't you do 5,000? So a lot of the times when I put the ball in their court and be like, hey, what can I do to make you happy, or what can I do to make you feel better, or whatever, I put the ball in their court, and sometimes they're like, hey, we just want you to fix it, and that's how we deal with it.
Wow. That's crazy. So going on that point with the public, do you want to share some crazy stories that you have heard or that you
Um,
have seen?
oh man, definitely. So rule of there's obviously we don't share who's who at the hotel. Like we don't talk about, you know, um,
Like, have you ever been? I guess let me be more specific on that. Have you ever been dragged into like? This is for my Instagram viewers. Um,
yeah.
from like a criminal scene or like an FBI situation where they had to come in and do like like I guess like a crime scene investigation.
Yeah, so okay, so the first one's a little juicy. It was like my first week in hotels. All right, fresh off the boat. I was getting trained in the front desk. I was still 18, didn't know better because I wasn't told, to not. But I was working a graveyard shift as an eye auditor, and this lady called and said, "Hey, I'm calling to see if my husband is at the hotel. I've been trying to get a hold of him." And I'm like, "Yeah, he's here." And when you're really not supposed to say that, about 30 minutes, this was in Victorville, a small hotel in Victorville. About 30 minutes later, she shows up with a baseball bat, knocking on every door, like wondering where the husband is. And the guy training me at the time was, I kind of forgot to tell you, you're not supposed to say if somebody's here or not. Um, and, she's like knocking on the door. I mean, he was there because the car was outside, but yeah, so that's one obviously good little juicy story. Never
But
happened, we get a lot of cheesemen like that all the time. It happens a lot. Again, we just don't say anything. We look the other way type of thing. But and then as far as like, so we had at another property, actually out in Barstow, one of the properties out in Barstow. I was managing the hotel there, and there was a sting operation, and I took over that property. This was booked or taken care of before I started. So my first week again, I didn't know that this was happening. So I see a bunch of cops roll up, and you know, camera crews and all these things. And I'm like, what is happening? And they're just Johns, like trying to catch Johns. And it was like an episode of, I can't remember the TV show, but they were doing like a little show about it as well. We have one of my properties out in Redlands, we had cops, like the actual show cops stay at the hotel while they were filming out in the IE. And so that was a lot of fun too, because we got to see a lot of footage of that. So
That's so funny. I just think you say cops and I think about that theme song, Bad Boys. What
yeah,
you
exactly. That's them. That they're the ones that sit at the hotel. They're great people. I mean, really awesome people. And but yeah, having them see that, like showing us that raw footage was just so cool. I geeked out because I love that show.
Yeah, no, it's a interesting show. It's a lot of achievement.
Yeah.
Um, what about paranormal? Have you encountered any paranormal stuff?
Yeah, out in Barstow. It's
Is that
property out in
true? That's
Barstow.
supposed to be like, when someone passes away, gets killed, murdered, goes missing,
Ah,
the rooms are
I don't
cold.
know. I don't know. I'm not gonna say what property in Barstow this was, but there was a property I managed out in Barstow that I thought I saw a shadow of an old man where, and I kid you not. All right, I saw an old man wearing khakis and a green cardigan, kind of like a hunchback older man. And I went to the head housekeeper and I go, "Hey, I've seen this shadow a couple of times. Like and she goes, "Oh, Big John," and I'm like, "Okay, tell me more." And she goes, "But there was a guest that unfortunately passed away in his sleep, and I guess he never checked out. And um, he was an older man. And the way I saw him. The housekeepers, for their protections, cover the door of the room they're cleaning, and the door has to stay open, but their cart is blocking the door again for protecting the housekeepers. But there was a man lurking over, and he was like covered like this, just looking over the cart, just bent forward, just staring. And I've run because I'm like, this dude's creeping me out. I've run to that guy. I look down for, I don't know, a split second. I look up and he's gone. And that's where I was like, okay, maybe. Um, and then I was inspecting some rooms because as GMs too, we have to check rooms to make sure that they are clean after the head housekeeper has cleaned them or checked them. Um, I'm inspecting rooms and I see a couple of these drawers are open. And I go and close the drawers. As I'm walking, like leaving the room, the drawers open again. Your typical paranormal stuff, TV turning on, but it's only that one room. And that was the room of uh, that guy that passed. So it does happen. I mean, it's real. It happens. I believe in them. Obviously, we're Latinos, so we believe in La Llorona and La Mano Peluda and all that stuff. But yeah, stuff was definitely, definitely makes you want to keep coming back to work, at least for me.
um, yeah, I mean, you always see in the movies, right? Like the housemaid comes in, she's like, ah, she screams when she sees like something weird in the room or,
Yeah.
a dead body or something.
Yeah,
But
I'm
at
not.
least how the movies
I'm
portray it.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's happened. I'm not going to talk about those
Yeah.
here, but it definitely it does happen. We do get trained on those situations too about what to do because again, it does happen. Um, just we get trained as a GM. We get trained from how to deal with a housekeeper falling because she was carrying linen and she tripped on her feet, or because she lifted the mattress and now her back hurts. You know what I mean? From those things to bombings and shooters and deaths and ODs and all those things because those things do happen. Unfortunately, hasn't happened at this property, thank God, but it some properties that I've worked in, it does happen.
Yeah. I mean, that I could only imagine what happens at, the LA hotels. Here in California, you have to train for the workplace violence, have
Hmm.
all of that injury, the whole plan in place. But I mean, you look at the world and it's pretty scary to know. I mean, it could happen anywhere, right? From
Yeah,
any location, anytime. And I think that's what makes hospitality more special, because you're now dealing and juggling with the public. Because when someone checks into a hotel, you don't know them. They're just like, here's my ID, here's my credit card, credit card matches ID,
Right.
and I'm in. And you don't know what, you don't know who the person is checking in, whether they're coming to visit, do a business trip, see family, or they're running away. They're a criminal on the loose and
Yeah,
running
you
away.
know, we've had those. There was a property in Colton actually that I managed that we had to do because of the type of hotel that it was, that there was more families than anything. It was an extended stay hotel. We had to do Megan's Law on them. Everybody checking in was, we had to make sure that we checked them on the Megan's Law registry, or not check them, but make sure that they weren't on the registry on that Megan's Law website. If they were, they couldn't check in because of the amount of kids and families that were in that hotel. I don't know if you're familiar with Megan's Law, but
No, I'm not.
it's um, the sex offender website in California. And so we had to make sure that whoever it was, whether it's female or male, if you're checking in, we want to make sure that, you're safe because of the families that we have at that hotel. Um, so those things happen. And, to like you said, we don't know who's checking in. Part of dealing with the public is, I don't know your story. I don't know where you've come from, but we have to deliver the best service possible, because for all we know, Rocio, you had a fight with your husband and you're in a bad mood, and you flew in from LA to DFW and your suitcases got lost, and you fought with your husband, your suitcase got lost, the rental car wouldn't start, you had a bad afternoon getting here, and to walk in and see us with a Fuchi face going, like, that's going to make you more mad. But if we come in and be like, you know, we're so glad you're here, Miss Luna, let me see your ID, here's some water or whatever, that's going to turn it around. And that's where our job is to make sure that the guests have a great time, regardless of who you are and what your background is. We don't judge. Um, we just want to make sure that you have a good stay, and that goes a long way. And that can go into the construction industry and the insurance industry. Because if you're dealing, I did life insurance for a few years, and going into people's homes, it's, I don't know their story. I'm just trying to get you some help. And whether you want it or not, or qualify or not, that's not up to me to find out. I'm just there to give you a product that you have a need for.
Yeah, and it all comes down to customer service, and you are right about that, and making sure people feel welcomed, liked, safe. Because I'm the person that will always, anyone will always go back to where they feel that they're heard. They get great customer service, and it's a big difference when you go somewhere and you do the complete opposite. You're like, all right, let me leave in that 1-star Yelp review.
Yeah, yeah, and for us, reviews are everything.
Hmm.
For us, reviews are make or break for a lot of managers, and we have to make sure that we deliver no matter what, because the reviews will tell everything.
For sure, most definitely. So, is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with before we close this off? Any word of advice? Anything?
Yeah, just uh, honestly, never stop learning. And no matter how high up industry, whatever chain you're up, don't stop learning. Because again, the owner of our company, Peter Beta, he's, man, I look up to this guy. He's been at the top of the world, managed five diamond resorts in exotic places and countries, and he's a teacher also at Harvard, and or at Columbia, and he's also like getting his degrees from Harvard. So he teaches and he's still learning. And I get that. And I'm like, dude, I want to keep, learning. And he's a great mentor. And like I said, just keep learning. I cannot stress that enough, because if you have that learning like mentality, who knows what you'll pick up, and who knows, maybe you'll end up picking up another industry that you didn't know you really liked, but because you were so open-minded to it or learning, any door is capable of
Yeah,
opening.
That was going to be my next question. Where do you like? Where do you see yourself, retiring in this industry, and where is it that you want to be 10 years from now?
I didn't think I was gonna be in this industry this long.
I know. Look at you.
You
You're gonna be
know,
you're gonna be, what, 40 this year.
I'll be 40 in July.
So
And
young.
but I look back, like I said, I look back and it's been a great journey. It's taken me, in a lot of states, a lot of places in the country that I never dreamed of visiting, meeting a lot of people that I never dreamed of meeting, my wildest dreams. But I want to continue until God gives me, you know, the strength to continue. That's where I'm going to go. I'm at a point in my life where now I got to start thinking about retirement. Um, well, I mean, I've thought about it for a while, but now it's closer than it has been. Um, and yeah, I just want to continue growing. And I mean, obviously, the ultimate goal is to own a hotel. I know that's crazy because I've worked with owners and I see what it does to them, but that's my goal is to own my hotel and, you know, start my legacy, leave it to my children and go from there. But
That would
that's
be
my ultimate goal is to own that franchise.
Yeah, well, there you go, viewers, because this is going to go on YouTube. So if there's anyone, any builders, any investors out
Yeah,
there, Helio, as a partner, he's here, available and ready. And I forgot to mention the most important part of you. You are an amazing father to your children.
I
And
try
that's
to be.
hard, because
I
you're dealing, you have a big, um, a lot of responsibility on your hands, and that's your work life, and then you have your children on the side. So how do you do it in giving them time?
you know try not to get emotional because every time I talk about them, I get all emotional because I just love my boys. But I've learned to again delegate a lot of the stuff, and that's one of the reasons I get to go home is I've trained my staff to run the property, as if I'm here. I just took a small vacation last week where I was able to enjoy some time off away from the property. Um, and one of the proudest emails I sent to my owners was, everyone's trained to do what they have to do. Dot, dot, dot. It's just another day off. Like they're treating it like a Saturday or Sunday, because I was able to train my staff properly to handle the things as if I was here. Um, and any challenges, they know how to deal with things. If but So to answer your question, that's how I was able to do that, and I could go home and make sure that unless it's an emergency that I will get a call, but I put my phone down and just focus on my children. They're 6 and they'll be 5 soon. Um, they're not going to be this young much or this age much longer. So I only get them for a little bit before they go off, before they don't want to talk to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, just imagine,
and
your children right now, 5 years from now, on March 19, 2030, and they're looking at this video. And they're
yeah,
yeah, talking about us.
yeah. So uh, I just owe everything who I am now to them, because now I get to teach them. And as a matter of fact, they're teaching me on how to be a dad. They're teaching me on how to deal with things, and I'm learning a lot from them. So, just not only do I take care of my staff and my people, but I take care of them. But to go full circle, I have to take care of myself first because if I'm not healthy enough to take care of, you know, my family and the staff, who's going to take care of me? And so, the mental health is huge for me. Those that know my personal story, I'm all about mental health. Drinking water and not drinking and uh, not eating healthy and working out and staying level-headed. And obviously praying a lot for me is like my biggest thing. Um, but again, if I'm not healthy, I can't take care of everybody as well as I need to. So um, anyway, and I just went off on a big rant.
No, that's
That's what
amazing.
happens. That's what happens when I talk about my kids. I don't shut up.
No, no, no. We want that. I mean, I like to bring in people and talk, and it's also I like to show like the human aspect of it, because we all kind of see the outer on LinkedIn. It's like the profile, the name, whatever you want to highlight our wins, like you said. A lot of people talk about their losses,
Yeah.
and it's like at the end of the day, we're all humans. You know, we all have our own challenges, our own problems, and the way, because you know we're all interconnected in one way. Because I don't know if you've seen that commercial of that guy who has like a really bad day, and then he spreads it to someone else, and then he spreads it to someone
Hmm.
else, and it's like that because when you are you, you know you don't want to be selfish and just think that because you're having an issue, everybody else around you
Right.
is going to have an issue, because that makes you a bad leader. It's coming into your senses and saying, okay, what can I do right now to make sure that my team has the best day and I'm here for them? And it
Hmm.
takes a big person to be able to put other people's um, best outcomes first, but it's also a maturity level in yourself that you have to know where your limits are at and know, okay,
Yeah.
this is where I could balance, where I could
Yeah.
be most successful.
100%. It's not your problem that I'm going through hell, and it's not my problem that you're going through whatever it is that you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
So it does trickle, and like that's why I told you to make that example about when you check in. We don't want to make sure that we're frowny because the guest doesn't care that we're having a bad day. We're here to take care of a guest. One of the bosses that I worked for, his name is Jim, out in Ohio. Jim said that our guests are never an inconvenience. They're here because this is our house, and we need to take care of them because they're staying in our house. So, once that resonates, then even, for anybody in any industry, your employees are not an inconvenience. They're here because they have to work and they have questions. And, if you get annoyed because they ask a question, then maybe we need a gut check, have a gut check.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, I think you said that your only social media is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, people, thank you so much for joining us. And if you want to connect with Helio, you can connect with them on LinkedIn. I will share his LinkedIn profile. It should be on the event. But thank you so much for joining the call. I really enjoyed interviewing you and getting to know you. And also, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing with the world what it is to be a GM.
All right. Thank you so much, Rosie. I enjoyed this time.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And then everybody, will catch you in the next one. Bye.
All right. Take care, guys.